Hey everyone, Pastor G here. I haven't made a video in a while, and what a better way to come back from not making a video in a while than to talk about some wonderfully controversial subjects. Particularly this picture that I found on the internet shared by a friend of mine, Matt Bethany, on Twitter. I've actually seen other people share it on Twitter as well, and I thought, well, you know, there's some topics here or points of view that this pastor has shared that I've been questioning about myself. So I thought, well, why not talk about it? Give my point of view and make kind of a response video to this. So let's get started. Uh, I will say the first two things that this pastor mentions is gay and cusses all the time. I'm not going to go into full detail in this video. That's actually probably more worth doing separate videos for this. But I will say this, as far as like the LGBT community and all that, I believe that the church needs to show more grace towards that community, and vice versa. I believe that the LGBT community, those that are not Christian, should just give us Christians some grace. Not all Christians are bigots and persecute the community, and I believe that there needs to be more understanding for both groups. I'm going to take kind of a neutral stance at this point in time. I will go into more detail in a different video, but I'm just basically saying we need to just show each other more grace in that case. As far as cusses all the time, again, that's a big debatable subject as far as, should Christians cuss? Is cussing a sin? Stuff like that. I'll get into that in another video. But I want to go further down the line and talk about some of the other things that this pastor has said, such as low-key wants to tear down the evangelical church. I'd like to figure out, what do you mean by that? Because the evangelical church is actually a pretty broad term. It depends on who you ask. It encompasses a lot of various different denominations, particularly, Protestant denominations. I don't really think it includes the Catholic denomination. So I am curious on what you actually mean by that. The other part has tattoos. Okay. I don't know if this is just like bragging rights, but I know there's some Christians that may have issues with tattoos, but they're very few and far between. God made it very clear in the book of Samuel, man looks on the outside, but God looks at the heart. Doesn't matter how many tattoos you have or what you got. It's about your heart. And so tattoos really aren't in that big of a deal, so, and I'm sure somebody can light up my comment section if they have opposing viewpoints or whatever, or what about this. I mean, feel free to ask any questions you want, but that's pretty much the general stance of where I view this. Alright, so is a universalist? Again, this is another broad term. Universalism actually covers a whole bunch of different viewpoints. If you were to kind of lump them together, mainly Christian universalists, they believe that no matter what happens, everybody's reconciled to God. Everybody goes to heaven, that there's no hell, and stuff like that. I don't subscribe to that belief. That kind of, to quote Brennan Manning, it renders the cross irrelevant or useless. I'm probably butchering his quote, but you pretty much get the point. Universalism basically just says that, oh, no matter what you do, you're going to go to heaven anyway. And the Bible's pretty clear about that. And I believe that, it's a very easy gospel to preach. And, I can see the appeal of it. But Jesus was pretty clear that it's, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever shall believeth on him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. It takes belief. Paul talked about in Romans 10:9 that if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. It takes belief. Belief in the Lord Jesus Christ. So, again, I know that there's some people that will probably debate me on that, and that's fine. Feel free to leave your comments, send me tweets or whatever, and we'll talk about it. But I don't really subscribe to this doctrine at all. Uses he, they pronouns. This is something I see the left do a lot, pretty much using pronouns as a virtue signal to support the transgender community. which, whatever. But here's something that really caught my attention. Teaches the most important commandments of loving yourself and your neighbor. Okay, so this well, first of all, you're half right here. I'm going to actually bring up Matthew chapter 22, verse 36, and explain what actually the truth is on that, and that is this right here. It says, "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" Hold on, let me switch it over here. Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." So the most important commandments is not loving yourself and loving your neighbor. The most important commandments is loving the Lord your God and loving your neighbor. This is kind of a dangerous teaching here, because it's focusing on yourself and not on God, not on Jesus Christ and what he has done for you. This is basically a very self-focused type of quote-unquote gospel. And which leads me to the next couple things that this person says. Thinks that Black lives effing matter. Well, Black lives do matter. The term Black Lives Matter, I agree with. The group, no. The Black Lives Matter group is a very dangerous Marxist, anti-American, anti-family group that has caused more destruction on Black lives than they have ever helped solve at all. They are deceiving the public, saying that they are, if you support them, you support Black lives. They don't support Black lives. Given the riots and the protests that I've been seeing over the past few months, these guys have actually destroyed more Black-owned businesses. They've destroyed more Black lives than they've ever helped. And they're not there to help Black lives. This is a political Marxist group. They are for the destruction of America. And so, you know that this person, who's definitely a lefty, because most lefties I know actually support this, this is not about Black lives. It's about politics. So I see right through this one. So then this leads up to this next one, which I actually had to look up, ACAB. And what I come to find out is that it means all cops are bastards. So again, this is downgrading cops, it's pushing cops down, but this is what really cracks me up here. The person says, or this pastor or whatever says, teaching the most important commandments of loving yourself and your neighbor. Okay, so let me ask this question. Who is your neighbor? According to Jesus, it's everybody. And that means cops too. So I get it. There are bad cops out there, and I believe that bad cops should be punished. I believe that our police system should be reformed in some cases where bad cops are prosecuted and not protected. And I know that this is a big struggle for a lot of people, but here's the truth. There are a lot more good cops than there are bad cops. And to actually lump all the good cops together with the bad cops is no different than me lumping a few bad Black people with all the Black community, or a few bad white people with all the white community. That's racism. It's no different. So if you want to actually sit there and say that all cops are bastards, but then say that we should be loving our neighbor, you're kind of being a hypocrite here. You claim you love your neighbor as yourself, but yet you want to lump all the cops together as bad people. See, there's something wrong with that teaching right there. So that's, pointing out hypocrisy big time in this case. So knocking down to believe trans rights are human rights. Okay, so I have a genuine question here. What do you mean by trans rights? Because I believe that transgender people have every right like any other group of people. I believe they should be treated fairly. I don't believe they should be persecuted, because here's the thing. Gender dysphoria is a very real mental illness and should not be taken lightly. There's people that struggle with this. And so I should, no Christian or any other people for that matter should be persecuting people who are struggling with transgenderism. All I gotta say about that is that, you should, like, the above commandment here, you should love your neighbor as yourself. And persecution and treating people wrongly is just, it's not acceptable. So then we come to the last part here, is neurodiversion. Again, I had to look this one up. And from what I see, there's a big long definition on Wikipedia and a lot to cover on that. So the only thing I would say is I believe it's a form of autism, which because I don't really know much about it, I'm not really going to comment on it. Which my conclusion about all this is that, in my opinion, you're a pastor by title, you're definitely not a pastor by calling. Or if you are a pastor by calling, you're definitely ignoring the things that God is trying to tell you to do. You're ignoring his commandments. Because I'm going to say this. The one common denominator I see in this picture is the fact that where's Jesus, where's God in it? This is pointing at yourself. This isn't pointing at what you want to do for him, or how you want to serve him, or how you want to serve others. In fact, there's actually more hate pointed in this than anything else, because you want to tear down the evangelical church. What do you mean by that? You know, I know that there are some churches that need reform. Absolutely, I agree. But to tear it down? I mean, that's a pretty broad statement, and a pretty vicious one in many cases. But you know what? I'm willing to have conversations about this, but this is how I feel about this whole picture. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in to this video. I am definitely going to be making more in the future. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. Definitely hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit that notification, and I'm going to be starting, especially in the fall, I'm going to be starting to post up a lot more videos. So you guys take care of yourselves, and God bless.